Hey friends, and welcome back to Silverhawk Farm. We are here in my kitchen again today making a sort of late supper. If you can see my clock, pretend that you can't. And despite the fact that it was like 97 degrees today, it's technically fall, so I'm choosing to believe that if I cook lots of soup, the weather will cool down and behave accordingly. So potato soup is one of my favorite soups ever. I don't really use like a super specific recipe for it, so I'm gonna do my best to like make notes about it and then go back and put a recipe down in the show comments. It's gonna be maybe a little bit scattered because I kind of do this by like eye and feel and what vegetables I have on hand and, you know, tasting it along the way, you know, like you cook sometimes. One thing I love to use in potato soup is leeks. I actually didn't grow up eating a ton of leeks until my stepdad, who is from England, came and cooked with them a ton. And I feel like Americans should eat with more leeks. I got some of these from a local farm because my leeks personally are still kind of growing. They grow kind of slow. So I've got some farm fresh leeks. I'm gonna add a little bit of carrots, not too much because I don't wanna make it too super sweet. Some garlic, lots of potatoes, and then I'm gonna add probably like some cream cheese, some milk, usually I use chicken broth, but I have some turkey broth thawed, so that's what we're using. And some ham bits, which is totally optional, but I really do like that like extra saltiness on top. So I'm gonna start by getting these all peeled and washed, and then we'll have a little chopping party before we go over to the stove. All right, so I've got my potatoes all peeled and washed, and I've got my carrots washed as well. I took the outer layer off of the leeks just to make it so that there's nothing like kind of limp or dirty going in there. And I actually already have my onions chopped because my husband made omelets yesterday and I chopped some extra onions for that. So I'll go ahead and start with the potatoes because I want to be able to cook those first. So for potato soup, I like to have things in kind of like larger chunks. I'd say probably like 1/2-inch chunks. I don't want it to take forever to cook, and I do want to make it large enough that it'll like hold up a little bit in the soup and like have some actual chunks of potato, but also be small enough that you can get it like in a bite, right? Let's say right around 1/2-inch chunks. And I'm a big fan of the rough chop. I'm not like, I know that like if I worked in a Michelin starred restaurant, I would want everything to be the same size, but when you're cooking for your family, I like the variation of like some chunks are really like nice and like hearty and they withstand the cooking, and then some chunks kind of just like melt into the broth. That's the best. That's the best thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these finished up, and then after that I will chop up my carrots and my leeks to about the same size, and then we'll get moved over to the stove to start the cooking process once everything's all nice and prepared. So I've got all of the veggies and all of the ingredients totally prepped and set to the side. I've been preheating my enameled Dutch oven here over the stove for 4 or 5 minutes, not too long. I'm gonna go ahead and add some of the ham chunks to kind of fry them up, kind of like bacon, so they're nice and crispy. Then I'll remove the ham bits, and then once I've removed the ham bits, I will go ahead and make a roux from a combination of equal parts butter and flour, just to help thicken the soup a little bit because I like a nice thick potato soup. And then once the roux is finished, I'm gonna go ahead and add in some broth, get it nice and heated, and then cook the potatoes in the broth for a little bit to get it a little bit cooked before adding the rest of the veggies. After the veggies have cooked to the point that they're a bit soft, I'm actually going to remove a small portion of the veggies and a little bit of the broth, and then I'm going to actually combine those in a bowl, and then I'm actually gonna use an immersion blender. You could use a blender or a potato masher or the end of a spoon if you want to do this, but I'm basically just going to blend that all up so that I'm getting a nice thick hearty broth, so that it's more of like a thick potato soup like you'd have in a restaurant. If you're not particular about having a super thick soup, then you can totally skip that process, but that's the thing for me personally that I've learned that makes it more like the soup that I like to eat at restaurants and less like I threw some potatoes in a stew and it's not really the potato soup that reminds me of Panera, I guess. All right, friends, we have reached my favorite part of the video where I am done working really hard for entirely too long, considering how long this recipe should take, and I get to eat. So we have this delicious bowl of soup. It's all nice and mushed up. We have everything really well blended. I did decide to go ahead and top it with a little bit of shredded cheddar cheese and some green onions, honestly just for color. Because there's a lot of onions in here, it's gonna be very oniony. And I'm gonna not burn the crap out of myself on the internet. That's what we're doing. We're not burning ourselves, but we are tasting. Yep. This is so creamy. It could probably stand to be a little bit more peppery. I think I'll probably top mine with a little bit of black pepper because I like really peppery stuff. It's extremely flavorful. I did go ahead and add a few spices while I didn't have the camera on. I added a little bit of MSG. If you're scared of MSG, don't be. If you're not allergic to it, it's perfectly safe. And it's delicious. It makes all food delicious. Just use MSG. You can get on Amazon. I added a little bit of white pepper and a tiny bit of balsamic vinegar. If I had Worcestershire sauce, I would add that because I add it to everything. It's delicious, it's so good. I'm out of Worcestershire sauce because I use it too much, so we are without it today and we're okay. And oh, this just has the like, it has the really calm fall hearty vibes that you need it to have. And then it's got a little bit of a cheese pull because I topped it with that cheddar. Okay. I gotta get off camera because I need to eat this right now like a Wolverine in a way that I don't want anyone on the internet to see. If you enjoyed this, definitely check out the rest of my cooking recipes. I'll be sure to add the playlist to the end card of this video, and I hope to see you really, really soon. In the meantime, treat yourself to something delicious. Okay, bye.